What's up, guys? Welcome to the Resellers podcast with Chris. I go by Daily Refinement. Today, I want to talk about how I went from a small seller, just selling stuff out of my garage, and turning that into a business now where I make multiple six figures a month. I hope this episode can inspire people of all levels. And I guess I'll just start from the very beginning. When I first started, I was looking for things to sell online. I went on the YouTube and I learned that you can sell anything as long as it has a sales history. So I went to Savers and I looked up everything in the whole store, every kind of snow globe, puzzle, clothing, shoes. I looked up furniture. I got really lucky in the beginning. I found a Herman Miller desk. It was a Herman Miller desk that went on top of a table. So it was like a mini desk. It was really light and it folded into a shape that could go inside of a medium flat rate mailer. And when I first started, I went to the post office and looked at all the available free supplies because I didn't have that much money. So when I first started, I was just trying to figure out how does reselling work? And there are some key things that matter. One is, how does shipping work? Every dollar that you spend on shipping is money that could be going towards cost of goods. And the worst thing that can happen is you overpay for shipping and that money could have been spent somewhere else. So definitely helps to educate yourself on shipping and go to the post office and look at all the supplies that they have and get a good idea of what's available. At Savers, I was an everything seller, so I took great note in what sizes everything were. And I think that I really liked selling first class puzzles. That was kind of my first niche other than shoes. I've always loved shoes, so selling shoes is easy, but outside of shoes, because sometimes you don't find enough, I liked selling small puzzles. And at Savers, Goodwill, Salvation Army, you can find a lot of sealed puzzles. People buy board games and puzzles and games and never open them. And sometimes you can get them for $1 to $10 and they sell for $50. So the beginnings of reselling was just like everything. You don't know how to do it. So you just start really broad and then you start getting more and more narrow, and all of the money reselling. The difference between me now and the difference between when I first started is I have more detail in what I'm doing. I have more ideas on the finer things. So as an example, you start with what to sell, don't know everything, then down to just items that are heavy and small or light and small or big and bulky and require freight, because nobody wants to learn how to ship a ping pong table. But you could find a ping pong table if you go on the Facebook Marketplace for $20 or for free and sell it for $75 to $100 if you want to learn how to ship a ping pong table. There's tons of ping pong tables for sale under $50 that are worth over $150. $100 profit items, but require a little bit more help, ingenuity on how to resell it. So I would say that one of the largest things that has made me the most money over the years, everyone should pause the podcast right now and write this down, is processing the money into it. I think Judith in the call earlier was saying that clothes that have been washed feel different. And this is 100% true. When you wash a pair of jeans or wash a shirt, it goes back sort of to the original manufacturing shape. It's a totally different garment. The photograph, the describe, the list, when somebody gets it, it feels totally different if it was just recently laundered. If you've worn a piece of clothing, especially if you live in a hot climate, the clothing will have some residue on it when you wear it, and it's not worth as much. So those people that think that not washing clothing doesn't matter, it absolutely does matter. It's a better presentation. It's a better experience when you get it. It's easier to list. It shows that you care. But processing the money into the garment or into the item has made me more money than any other thing that I have done. So right now, I am selling returns and store clear out. That's what I'm reselling. And I know that the items that require the most processing have the most profit. I know that. The items that are from QVC, and as an example, I buy some store returns from QVC, the Home Shopping Network, and the Home Shopping Network. Their items are very difficult to process because every single individual item comes in plastic packaging. It has the little silica gel in it so that it doesn't have moisture. It's packed in other box. It's packed in the plastic in another box, in another box, in another box. It's like so much packaging that it's very, very difficult to process. You definitely need a dumpster just to go through a pallet of it because it's 80% packaging. Those returns, if you guys look at them on like a website like Ghost, ghst.io, that website will aggregate all these different returns. QVC is like 50 cents to $2 for an item that retails for 70 because it's so much work for a company to figure out what it even is. You have to open up 2 boxes and 4 packages to figure out what they're even selling. And the sizes are not even marked on it and the styles aren't even marked on it. It's a huge cluster of items that are difficult to identify. So for them, they don't want to process it. So it's literally a $70 item for 50 cents because nobody wants to go through the hassle of processing. But if you're just starting, you can process, you can use your sweat equity and put it into the item and make it work because you're processing the money into it. That's been the most valuable tip I can get is when you're looking for an opportunity, you have to look for what looks like a lot of work. It's not the easy things. Finding things with a barcode that you can list in 2 minutes, I've yet to find any kind of volume version of that. It's only a few things are like that. Oh, I have to go to 10 thrift stores and 10 garage sales to find 4 things that I can just scan and list. Because if it's that easy, then there's no opportunity there. But like thrift store clothing, there's endless opportunity there. Millions of people make a living reselling clothing because it's such hard work that it's worth money. If somebody throws away something that they paid $80 for, and then you get it out of the thrift store, wash it, or at least unwrinkle it and stage it nicely. You've put the work back into it to make that item that was worth $0 to the previous person into more money. Processing is huge. Now, this is going to lead me to the next part, which is paying up has really, really, really helped me. The more I have paid on items and lots and relationships, it has paid back 10-fold, 20-fold, 100-fold by just paying up for items. I know I talk about this a lot, but I went to the flea market for 3 years and did the same route. And it made me over $1 million just meeting people that go through the same ways. And the general way to get clothing from Goodwill is to either go to the Goodwill bins or to buy on auctions from a Goodwill bins distribution. So there will be like multiple bins, Goodwill bins that funnel into one giant one. That's the one that will offer auctions. Not everyone does. So you need to find regionally which one has that, and they will be happy to sell you a truckload of clothing if you want it every single week forever. That business will never go away. All of the vendors that I worked with selling clothing and other products at the flea market, all of them have been doing it for longer than 20 years. Same stall, same suppliers. Anybody listening right now, you could just move near a Goodwill distribution center, start this exact business, make millions of dollars because it's already established. It's not a new business. You can go right in and just start bidding against those people, but you need to have a way to sell it. What is your method of doing it? Is it the flea market? Are you selling items for $1 to $2? Are you on eBay selling clothing for between $10 and $100? Are you a boutique only selling $100 plus bangers? Those are very, very different. So it's kind of interesting. After 7 years of talking about this on YouTube, now at this point in my career, the only thing that I am focused on is consistency. Anything that can make me more consistent, I pay for or I work on. Key habits are hard to find, but key habits are the difference between something working forever and not working at all. If turning on the timer makes you list items faster, always turn on the timer when you go. So I'm currently selling on Whatnot, and the metrics that they ask me about are always the same. How many auctions are you running per hour? How much are you selling the items for? Actually, that's really the only two numbers they care about. How much are you selling the items for? And how many are you selling per hour? Because for Whatnot, they only care about revenue. That's how they charge you fees. For me, I care about more numbers. I care about what is my average cost of goods. And then I can determine how many items I sold, what's my average cost of goods, what's my average gross revenue. I can find out how much profit I make per hour. But Whatnot is so legit. You turn on the camera, you're working. But if you're a regular reseller at home, there's no camera. And I think a lot of people are beating themselves up over trying to make this magical schedule that works with their family time and their work time and their lunch break, when that, in my opinion, doesn't really work. I don't think you can schedule something that works with having to take care of kids or having to take care of the elderly or having multiple projects that you're in charge of and you're trying to do reselling in the middle of all those. I don't think that works. I think you need a checklist of what you need to get done each day. It's going to be customer service, shipping, photos, listing, sourcing. That's it. And you have to schedule the hard parts, the photo and listing part, when you're not at work or not during the day, if you have other projects. There's honestly no way to do it. For me personally, I have to get up before my kids wake up, knock out 10 listings, then start the crazy work day. It's so unrealistic to beat yourself up trying to do things in the middle of helping your kids, like making dinner. You're going to go take photos right now. That's so impossible. That's such an unlikely thing that can happen. I have to make somebody breakfast and then run to the post office. It just is hard because there's cleanup, there's setup. Over time, if you start timing your household projects, you can get a really good idea of how long it takes. For me, kids go down to 7. The house is not ready for me to even start working until 8, even though the kids are asleep. Kids are asleep at 7. I can't start working until 8. That's how long it takes to get the house in the order before you can even do anything, right? Throw in taking a shower and trying to like decompress. It's already 9. Like that's a long day. And then at 9:00, you got to bust out your photo station and start working. That's hard. But I did that for a long time. For 7 years, I did listings, photos, drafts, YouTube videos, scripting, ordering at night, because there really is no other time to do that. When I proposed to my wife in 2018, that's 5 years ago now. Since then, every single year, my income has doubled. I think when you become responsible for somebody else, because for me, I took the marriage oath to heart, till death do us part, and through good times and bad. I believe that. I want to be there in case things are bad. So that means I've got to be able to feed 2, worst case scenario, right? So I had that mentality. And my wife also shared the same mentality. She was like, okay, if you're going to do that, I'm also going to do that. I want to be able to cover the bills in case you don't work. And I will tell you, there is a huge, massive difference in households where the husband and wife have the same objective. For like, if you're talking about like you're Elon Musk, or maybe these aren't good examples, but Elon Musk and Gary Vaynerchuk were both talked about, if you're going to be working 24/7, you need a wife that's a household manager, taking care of everything, right? I mean, both those guys ended up being divorced. So there's something to that type of setup where one person is like, both people are just doing what one person wants to do, right? In my household, it's the opposite. My wife's career ambitions, in my opinion, they subtract from my career ambitions. My career ambitions subtract from her career ambitions because they're not related. Her having to go to a job to do something it's not on the same plane as mine, where we're both doing the same thing. If you guys watch YouTube and you see a husband and wife reselling couple, they can get a lot done. Okay, because there's 2 people focusing on the same mission. 2 people who care the most, working on the same mission, rowing in the same direction. That's tremendous. So at least if you have a partner that's supportive of what you do and gives you the time to do it, if you have, for example, this morning, I did take care of all the kids' stuff because my wife had a work project. So that means me taking them to the school, me taking them to the dentist, getting breakfast, all their lunches ready, taking them there. I got to remember to bring extra diapers for childcare. All that stuff is part of it, and zero work gets done during that time. I don't know what people are thinking about this multitasking. There is no multitasking. During the kid part of my day, I don't get any work done. And I constantly get interrupted. I just have a list of things that I need to get done each day. Tomorrow I have a YouTube video to film. I have to finish the script before tomorrow, so that tomorrow when we're doing it, it's not a disaster because there's nothing to film. My workers come to work expecting that there's stuff to sell. Stuff needs to be photographed, it needs to be listed. And I told everybody, you cannot screw up somebody else's day. So many people work here. Somebody going to work, and if their day is ruined because of you, that's a problem. Everyone works here. Everyone leaves the workspace exactly the same. People leave me pictures when they leave of what it looks like because they're proud to work here. I'm like so jazzed about that. Right? People are like, hey, you know what? I got to work today and I noticed this was out of place and I took care of it. And they like that. And I think that's all you can do. You start really broad and you get more and more and more detailed and nuanced until you figure out things that you can do to add value to the product. And that adds value to the customer. Today on the Whatnot call, we actually watched two of my streamers, and somebody made the comment, wow, I need to be writing eBay titles to get my customers excited about the product. Bingo. That's one way that you could learn to make way, way, way more money because your listings actually speak to customers. They land on your listing and they know exactly what they're looking for. Such a better experience. Paying up more, processing the money into it, and timing yourself. It sounds unbelievable, but that changed my thinking from making $100,000 a year to $100,000 a month. It's just that. The reason why I'm paying up is because I want it to be consistent. I don't want there to be any hiccups. Things that cost more and are more reliable, I'll pay for it. If a 20-foot truck is what I need for the job, I'll pay a few bucks extra for a 26-foot truck. I don't want to have to make a second trip. Right? If I'm working with someone and they're like, oh, you know what? We need to order a cable in case this cable for the iPad doesn't work. I'm like, okay, let's order 4 cables because I'm not going to order cables again. I'm ordering a lifetime supply of cables. We're not going to have to go back and do this again. So today we ran out of bags in one of my areas, and she said, I don't want to use the emergency bags. Can you order some more? And I said, that's what the emergency bags are for. You use the emergency bags and I'll order more. That's for this purpose. But she's so like programmed by me that we don't touch anything in the emergency pile that she didn't even want it. She was like, let's preserve the emergency pile. You get something for today, which is good. But I just think that everything that you pay for that makes you more consistent is absolutely worth it. I have a mentorship group, but if you're in it and you're not being more consistent, it's not working. The whole point of it is to be more consistent. In the group, all I want people to do is post improvements and tips, and that's it. If you want to build community, you can explain how something made it so that you could not be consistent, and so many people will draw inspiration from that. For me personally, I cannot get anything done when my family needs something. I've never found a way to balance this work into it. It just doesn't work that way. It's completely opposite. So this is some personal information, but I'm happy to share it with you guys. Lots of people have recommended that I do therapy before I need it, especially as a leader, right? Because a lot of people depend on me. So I want to be in some kind of mentally destroyed position when I'm trying to lead people. So I've been taking some coaching and some therapy sessions, and I kind of have this situation with my therapist where she thinks that I don't need to be anxious, and she thinks I could be less anxious. And I think I'm an appropriate level of anxious. I don't know if this makes sense, but like I have employees, I have staff, I have small children, I have a wife, I have multiple businesses. I don't think that there's a form of that doesn't have any anxiety. but I don't feel over anxious. I feel like it's appropriate. I want to make sure that my staff has all the supplies they need. I want to make sure my family has what they need. And that's a bit stressful. So like I'm using a program called Lyra Health, and like my anxiety levels are higher than they would like it to be. But I don't know if you can have the life that you want without that. I don't know if that's inspirational or depressing for people listening right now. You want a big life, it comes with a little anxiety. I don't. There's no form of this where you're trying to dream big and get everything, and there's a really smooth road to get it. I've never heard of that. I've been talking to people for so many years online. It's always rocky, and I think maybe that's my superpower. I know it's going to be rocky, and I don't beat myself up because what can you really do? A consistent route, a consistent listing process. I've been talking about this for years, but I am just barely now enjoying the fruits of my labor where so much of my supply comes to me. And I think that it comes to me because people know that I'm consistently listing stuff. I just crossed over 100,000 items sold on Whatnot. And that's 300 items a day for a whole year is what that equates to. That's a lot of volume, and it speaks louder than I could even talk. Right? And my rating is at 4.9. And this is interesting to talk about too, because in 2024, I need to get it to a 5. Because 0.1, when you're doing the volume that I'm doing, is a lot of unhappy customers. And I'm not okay with that. I have to seek 100%, because otherwise, if you're moving a lot of volume, think about how many customers are going to be unhappy, even if you were at 0.1%. My most recent 9,000 transactions in December this year, I had 6 unhappy customers that left me a 1 or 2 star rating out of 9,000, right? And if you have that goal of 0 unhappy customers out of 9,000 customers, then you might end up with 6. But if you're like, it's okay sometimes to let things slide, you're going to have an insane problem if you start to grow. Right? I think the tolerance for your own consistency has to be close to 0. So I'll work with my therapist more to work on making sure that my anxiety level is appropriate. But I was just like, let me talk to some performance coaches. And she's like, it's different. A performance coach is going to teach you how to perform with anxiety. I am trying to teach you to reduce your anxiety level. So that's true, because I can tell you that when something horrible happens, right, I can deal with it better than others. I can be like, okay, you know what? This is a horrible situation. This death just happened, right? And I need to take a step back now and just think about, okay, reflect on my mortality for just a moment. Like, okay, why are we doing everything? All has to matter. But then now we got to get back into it. The person that's now gone wouldn't want you to just stop. They would want you to reflect. Sure. Take a moment to reflect, but they wouldn't want your life to stop. When your kids need something from you, they don't want your life to stop. That's not how they think of it. They're just like, they just need something. So you just need to take a short break, handle it, and then move on to the next. And I think over time, eventually your kids will be a source of support and energy for you. But in the beginning, I don't know if it can be like that, because they need you. So I remember going to, 12 different lactation consultants to figure out why our baby isn't feeding. And then there's nothing more stressful than a baby losing weight, right? Anything that happens to your kids that is harmful, it's like makes everything else not matter, right? You got to make sure your kids are healthy and happy. Otherwise, what's even the point? And that's what's got me to not judge any resellers. I don't judge a single reseller. You can tell me your situation, like you haven't listed in 90 days, your house is a mess, you're in debt, you're using credit cards to buy inventory. I'm never going to judge you. I'm never going to say, oh, well, if you just did things the right way, you wouldn't be in this position. That's not true because you don't know. You don't know what that person is going through. You don't know what happened with what they purchased. You don't know if they got scammed on an inventory buy. You don't know if something happened in their family or their health issues. There's no way to judge. You have no idea what people are going through, right? The only thing that you can do is compare yourself to yourself. That's going to be where I focus today's podcast on is all I'm thinking about right now is a better version of myself. And that's easy. I have a lot of stuff that I can improve for myself. And when I ask people in the morning call, because we do a morning call Monday through Friday, a lot of people don't know. And I think, is it because they're trying to find too exact of an answer? Is it because they're like, oh, I don't really know exactly why my business isn't doing well, but I don't either. It's always like our shipping could be a bit faster, so customers would get it earlier. Our photography could be a little bit more accurate. Today, I spent an hour trying to make the lighting correct because I thought, I don't want a customer thinking it's purple, but it ends up coming in as blue. I want to make sure it's as accurate as possible. I'm trying to make my space as clean as possible. Leave everywhere nicer than you arrive. And I think the flexible routine is the key to all this. You have to have a list of things that you want to do, right? You have to have a list of things that you want to do. And then when you get interrupted, you just go back to that list. I keep a list. I don't know how people that can do it without a list because they still forget things. Right? You can't, to reduce forgetting things, you need an actual checklist. Everything that we do right now is about emotion, in my opinion. When you're writing a title, photos, item specifics, pricing, it's for the emotion of the customer. Why is it that $1 starts on Whatnot or an auction format is more exciting than we're going to start today's bidding at $100? It's emotionally very different. Like there's no, if you're selling a car that's worth $20,000, why would you start it at $100 instead of one? It's not going to sell for less than $100. So why not just start it all the way at the maximum of the emotion? Why wouldn't you write the title that has the most keywords in it so the customer reading it can have the most emotion towards it? Why would you, like, what's the shortest title I can write so a customer will still buy it? That's the wrong question to ask. So I don't know if other people think like this, but when I was trying to get a girlfriend for the first time in high school and I was making my case, I did not say, what is the minimum I could do for you to go out with me? That doesn't make sense to me because that normally doesn't work. I would just think like, even when I was younger, I thought I've got to give this person as many reasons as possible to date me, right? I want this job. I'm going to give them as many reasons as possible to pick me. Right now, I'm trying to get a new warehouse. I tried to give my future landlord as many reasons to pick me. I'm like, hey, these are all the things about my business, right? I have no debt. You can interview any of my employees. I've never been late on a rent payment. Here are my references from all of my different people, right? I'm really clean. Come check out my space. Here's some photographs. Here's my website. Here's my company email. Here's my last year's income statements. Please pick me to be the tenant at your facility. Please pick me. There's all these people, right? Please pick me. I wanted to share with you guys that somebody I kind of looked up to just passed over the holiday weekend, and I didn't realize that they grew up as an artist. Now, okay, you wouldn't think starving artist would die a business tycoon. That doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't add up. So what happened is this guy was a starving artist and he lived in an art loft and he was like a good person. So the building was like, hey, do you want to manage the building? We'll give you a little extra money and you can like help us with letting us know if tenants have any problems. So he said, okay, he became the building manager while he was going to college. This was 40 years ago, right? And then maybe longer, maybe 50 years ago. He's the building manager, takes care of the whole building. And then eventually the building is like, hey, do you want to become a part owner of the building? You know everything about the building. You're always there and we don't really want to take care of it. So do you want a little bit more responsibility? You can have part of the building. So he ended up getting a piece of the building. Over time, he became the owner of the building and his art career took off. So he like got a couple breaks. He got a real estate break and then his art took off. So the art took off. He started making some money. He started making money from the building. He started buying more of the building until he became the owner of the building outright, and then leveraged that plus the money that he was earning at his job to buy another building. And then when he passed, he had 5 buildings paid off in California. I don't know if you guys have been to California recently, but 5 paid off buildings means he was very wealthy. But he was a starving artist 40 years ago, 50 years ago, however long ago, right? And it just really struck me that you can start anywhere, but with a little insider knowledge, you can get to that next level. So for me, getting the kids ready in the morning is a lot because for some reason, the childcares that we pick don't prepare food for them, which is so outrageous to me. So I have to have all these things in place to make it so it's easy for me to make lunch for them. So I've been focusing on meal planning, trying to get all of our groceries set up once a week, trying to figure out what my kids like, because that's probably the most stressful part of making food for kids, in my opinion, is that what if they don't eat it? You went through this whole hassle and they don't even like it. So there's a lot to do. And I think that you go through all the hassle of listing an item and no one buys it. That can be very frustrating. So I empathize with everybody right now who's listed an item and they really don't know why it hasn't sold. But I'm just letting you guys know, you haven't tried everything yet. There's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things you can do to make the item sell. And it's competitive. I also want to share that I've been doing one-on-ones with my staff because this week I'm doing training with some new people. And I was like asking them how it's going. And 2 of them made a comment, which was, this is way faster paced than I ever thought. From the job ad, I didn't realize how fast paced it is. Like a lot happens. So they came in on Monday and I was just setting up new stuff, new desk, new table. I was just like putting together some infrastructure, shelves, and now it's done. The whole thing is set up. It's exactly the same as my other location. And that's only in 4 days. And today they started, and every person working here is going to sell over 100 items today on their first day. Right. And I think it's cool. They got to see the evolution. I don't have to be perfect. I know what the job is going to look like in the end. But I can tell you there's 2 people that work for me right now that were shocked that what they saw on Monday is what they're doing now. Like they couldn't see the vision. It looked like a pile of boxes that are going to be shelves and a warehouse space with a bunch of shoes in it. How does that turn into a full-time job for 4 people? And the 4 people, their goal is 120 items a day each. And when they came in, we did the training and I was like, you could actually sell 150 items a day, right? And instead of 120. And that actually puts you like pretty close to 6 figures. Like if you were to do 150 items 5 days in a row, you'd make close to $2,000 a week, which is like 100K a year. But that's a little unsustainable in the beginning. So I'm going to start everybody at like a $50,000 to $75,000 a year pace, which is what I consider pretty much full-time work in the US. Hopefully you're making between 50 and 75,000 if you're pretty good at your job. And here, since everyone's doing it pretty much in the same way, they should be doing that as long as they're on track. So I had some of my other staff try it and they were not able to keep up that pace. And I think this is the awareness that I want to give people in the group. So I gave my workers, here's the plan to make 50 to 75K. Here's the plan for 100K. Two of them, because before I had 4 staff, 2 of them were like, oh, I love this. Finally, I'm at a job where I can make more money. We choose the harder 100K model. The other 2 people were like, we tried the 100K model. That is too hard for us. We're going to stay at the 50 to 75K model. Completely fine. The thing is, a lot of resellers don't know. They don't know the difference between 10 and 20 a day might be $30,000 a year. Right? They don't know the difference between getting up before your kids waking up and doing 5 listings a day. That's 15 grand extra a year. That's not worrying about how much groceries cost. That's worth it to wake up an hour before your kids waking up, never worrying about how much groceries cost. You just buy what your kids want to eat. That's a lot less stressful, in my opinion, than waking up an hour earlier. Now I'm just thinking like something bad could happen to me within reason. And I can just say no problem and move on with my day. My car could break down. I could just buy a new one. But I remember early in my career having a car break down and that's it. I can't source that day. Right. Or something or I have a return. Okay. I guess that day, this weekend, I can't buy anything. I don't have any cash. I needed that money. But it just snowballs into preparing for the next thing. And I've been kind of used to reinvesting the money. At a point, you think you would stop, but I'm not done yet. I'm still on the come up. If you guys are listening right now, it's January 4th, 2024. I'm not done yet. I'm still reinvesting. The money that's coming in, I'm still putting it back into to other things. My kids' skills, I'm trying to compound, but kids are so different. My daughter, when she was learning to sit, she would fall backwards. So you would need to put a pillow behind her when she was learning how to sit. My son falls forward. It's like we produced the same mom and dad. Why does one kid lean forward naturally and the other kid leans backwards? How do you even know? How could you be mad at your kid for doing that? They don't know. And that's what people are doing right now when they're reselling. Instead of having a photo station, they set one up differently every single time. That's really, really, really difficult. It takes about half a day to figure out a way that you want to do something. That's probably worth writing down too. It takes 4 to 8 hours to figure out how you want to do something. So for those of you with kids, how to do it is figuring out, do you want to stay up late or do you want to get up early? And just enjoy your time with your kids. I think that probably made me less tired. Waking up an hour early to get work done and then just not doing anything with my kids, no phone, is easier. It's less tiring than trying to use my phone when I'm with my kids. That is literally the most exhausting thing I can possibly think of. It's so hard. And your kids notice that you're not present. So your partner notices when you're not present. That's like the thing I worry about with cross-listing is that you have to manage more than one platform, and that's mentally taxing. Right? It's hard. It's like managing 2 part-time jobs. 2 part-time jobs is mentally taxing. 1 full-time job is less taxing and you make more money. Every single study online says that there's no such thing as multitasking. The gig economy workers make less than just working a regular job. I would bet if you worked full-time at Starbucks, most people working full-time at Starbucks would make more money than as a reseller. Because when you work at Starbucks, they require you to work 30 hours a week. When you work for yourself as a reseller, you're not required to do anything. Those of you that are having trouble with sourcing, that's where you focus your energy on, right? So if you want to source online, you have to learn how to source lots. You have to learn how to source from reputable suppliers. Ideally, you work with something that you can buy on a credit card over time until you develop a relationship. And then when you get more advanced, you move towards checks, cash, wire transfer, because there's less fees and everybody wants less fees. Cash money is the best way to get the best deal and stuff, but that's where your attention needs to flow. Becoming known in what you sell, I think there actually is a science to it. I've been posting about reselling since 2017. I just Googled how to resell, and it was interesting. As you read through Google, there's probably like 4 or 5 articles in the first couple pages that are me. If I was learning reselling, I'd probably learn from me. Because you're going to go through all the different people on there and see if they are worth their salt and figure out what they're selling and what they're doing. And most of the people on the first 2 pages of Google, they sell reselling. They're not resellers themselves. That's okay, but hopefully you guys can discern the difference between someone who resells for a living and somebody who sells reselling for a living. Just a little bit different. A little bit different. It's like I sell both. I sell reselling and I also sell things. I sell the concept of reselling because I think everybody should have their own store and it can change your life. But getting good at one platform and one niche is a bit boring, and it takes half a day to figure out each part of it. Hopefully this is inspirational, guys, because from small seller to big seller, I feel like it's not that much different. And I'm selling the exercise and dieting of reselling, which is just develop a route, be consistent, learn more and more things that you can talk about, learn how you can process the money into it. And the processing the money into it, the 2 most obvious ones are sorting. So you buy a big lot of something, people don't have time or understand how to sort out the good items from them. So they just say, whatever, $1 for everything, $1 a piece for everything. Or somebody doesn't want it anymore, and you, because there's a problem with it, and you fix that problem and resell it. That is the best possible way to resell, is one of those 2 things. Help people sort or help people recondition. Recondition, sort. That is the money. I would think right now the way that you can get the deal, I think this is actually true, because we've been talking a lot about estate sales recently, how to convince estate sale companies to work with you, meaning like you help them with something and then they let you buy the good stuff for cheap. I really do think a lot of estate sales do need help grading and sorting. I believe that, even though it seems like counterintuitive, like why would they let you buy their good items for cheap? But sorting and grading is very difficult. When you watch Pawn Stars in Las Vegas and the person brings in a rare antiquity and it's worth $8,000, they never say, I'll give you $3,000 for it. They always say, I don't know, I got to ask somebody. Got to do that homework. Got to ask somebody before you start. Hugely, hugely, hugely useful. The last part that I can share with you guys, I think ties into our beginning conversation, is just making sure that you have a supportive environment, right? Find the right people around you, find the right workspace, get the right desk. And I think that's the thing that I want everyone to really think about. I'm thinking about Kelly specifically. I want her to have a pristine work area. Because I'm just going to give you guys one more idea before I take off today. I think it will really help you guys, which is most of us right now have an entire lifetime of doing something else before reselling, right? Is anybody listening right now, reselling is your first job? It's not, right? I am calling out Kelly in the chat right now because she's coming from a previous business. So like you got to give yourself some time to unwind that previous business. You know that they say that however long you were in a relationship, it takes you that long to get over that business. So if you were working 30 years as something and now you're reselling, some of that residue is still there. You've got to just be vigilant about cutting and reducing things that are not related to what you are doing. That makes it very, 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 very hard. All of the stuff that you were previously doing makes it harder. We can call it career baggage, emotional baggage, family baggage. We are all full of baggage. So, okay, and I'm going to give you guys a visual. I think this will help. Earlier, I was watching my Whatnot streams back to back. I'm sorry, side to side. On one stream, I had a lady that was a little bit older than the lady on the other side. And when you look at her face, you can tell that she's lived some life. And the younger person, you can tell that she hasn't been hit by a bus in life yet. She's just so cheery and happy and lovely. And the older person, they've lived life. Something has happened to them and they've gotten through it. So that's where all of us are. Most of the people listening here, I bet you guys have had trials and tribulations too, and your life wasn't smooth sailing. But I just wanted you guys to give yourself some time to get over what you're previously doing. The best way to get over somebody is to date somebody new and do a good job at it. Let eBay and your second wind of career be the best rebound ever. The best revenge is success. Best revenge is success. All right, guys. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody coming by every week, listening to the podcast. And yeah, I won't tell my lady that she's been through some stuff. It's just that sometimes you meet people that are younger and you feel like you just haven't had any adversity yet. And I want to hire people with adversity. Have you guys ever had that question in an interview? How have you dealt with adversity in the workplace? That's a really good sign to hire somebody. I've never had anything hard before. My parents gave me everything. That's not the right person to hire generally. You want to find somebody who's lived some life. Adversity makes diamonds. And yes, so Carrie, I learned that you do not make comments on women's physical appearance. So I don't actually do that, but I'm just saying that some people, I was making more of the comment that sometimes it looks like people haven't gone through a lot yet because they're young. Like my son, he thinks peekaboo is scary, but my daughter thinks it's funny. So he hopefully will toughen up because right now peekaboo, he gets scared. So he's still young. He's only 9 months old, but hopefully he gets a little bit better at adversity because I know he's only a baby, but he does not handle adversity very well right now. But I appreciate everybody listening. I will talk to you guys next week. See you guys on the calls tomorrow.